So the next option that we are going to talk about here is convert elements IDs. So if you activate this item in here, you just click on OK, and when you want to export this file in here in actually properties window of each element that you select in Navisworks, you will have a kind of tag in the name of element IDs. For example, if you activate, for example, this window in here, maybe by default it is closed by Shift F7, or for example this icon, for example, you can open this property window. If you click on each of these elements, you will have a kind of tab. Let me refresh it first in here. Right now we don't have element ID in here, but if you refresh it in here, and if you click on each element in here, you will have a kind of new tab in the name of element ID, and you will have the ID of that element and a separate tab in here. Each one that you click on, you will have the element ID exactly separately in there. So let's return to Revit and W. So the next item that you have in here is convert element parameters. So that you have three items, none. That, as you can see, no parameter actually is included for that. So if you just set it on elements in here, just actually the elements that or parameters that are related to elements that you have that they are existing in here, it will be okay. Let me just click on yes here. So let me just tell you this point in here, selecting each element and, for example, seeing these elements or items in here depends on the selection resolution that you have in here. Of course, we've talked about it before. If you click on geometry, you will see everything related to that. Or, for example, last object or layer, for example, everything that you have in here. That the most practical one is the first object that we just set it on that. So actually, if you do all of these exercises that I'm explaining to you, these ones, and you see, for example, the element ID is different, for sure, check here. And that, for example, it's like the instruction that you're learning in here. Or, for example, the reason is, for example, the select resolution that you have is different with what you are, for example, learning. For example, for me, it is their first object, and our base is first object in here. Let me just click on refresh. Let me click on this wall. As you can see, for example, the parameters that are related to element of here have got added. For example, all of those items will be added into here in a tab in the name of element, and all of them will be added into here. So let's return to Revit and W. So right now, if you just set it on all, it means that all of the parameters that are related to the elements, for example, even those ones that are reference or external reference, if they are existing in the project, they will be turned to that. So let me save it. We save it on all. First, we'll wait that the exporting is done. In here, if you pay attention carefully here, let me click on this wall or this wall column. For example, you see the all tabs are like this: element ID, material, Revit material, item, Autodesk material, and element. So let's click on refresh. So let's click on this wall. You see all of the parameters, like, for example, base constraint, for example, for example, phase, or cover, all of them actually will be displayed and will be exported for us. So do attention to your need. Actually, you can just set and activate everything that you want. So the next item actually in here is convert element properties. This item has all of the features, and, for example, or elements, it will, for example, export all of them into NWC, and you can make better decision, of course, in a Navis model that you're working on. Let's wait for exporting. As an example, all of the information for actually quantification, for example, the clash detective. If you want more complete information about them, you can make better decisions. Of course, you have to just consider all of the information should be as much as you need. But, for example, if you don't have any information, you can export them to have all of them.